So I get asked quite a bit, what causes a company to fail or what causes a company to not be able to scale?
This guy makes a really good point. If you haven't taken a look at his profile, I'll tag him below, but definitely take a look because he makes some really good points. His specialty is largely in scale-up companies that are past the sort of startup stage, but pretty much everything he's saying has absolute parallels to the startup community, especially this part.
Number one is a dysfunctional leadership team. And if any of you have ever been part of a group of dysfunctional leaders that don't trust each other, that can't have good debate, and can't get to the best decisions, that is usually reason number one.
As a founder, once you've internalized the fact that entrepreneurship is a team sport, you can't do it alone and you need to surround yourself with high quality people. Munson makes a really good point about the fact that you should surround yourself with A players at best you can. That's why fractionalism is so important in the development of startups these days, because before, in order to get high quality A players, you needed to pay a lot of money, and in a fractional world, that's not necessarily true. But even if you've decided that that's the case and you're actually going to try and build a company with a good leadership team, if you don't make it a high priority to make that team functional and trusting and able to actually speak and communicate with each other as well as execute, you're not going to do very well.
Because as the leadership team goes, so will go the rest of the organization. Number two, tolerating poor performance.
A lot of startup founders believe that they have to put up with poor performance because they can't afford to do any better. And as a result, a lot of people at the early stage level, tolerate really, really bad execution. And what that does is two big things. Every single mistake you make as a startup is amplified. The importance of getting execution right is more important when you're really small than even when you're a little bit further along. So making the best possible case that you can execute actually can make a huge difference. The other big thing is that when you're in an early stage company, one of the most important things you got to be looking for is product market fit. If you've got bad or even mediocre execution, you're always going to be asking yourself, if you get a negative result, whether it's because the market is telling you that it doesn't want what you're proposing or that it's not a good fit, or whether you just didn't execute well. All the more reason to A, have the highest quality resources that you can, the highest quality people you can executing, and B, that you're focused and actually are only doing one thing at a time. It's really hard to tell the difference between bad outcomes because of execution and bad outcomes because of the market if you're trying to do 16 things all at once. So when you're pursuing product market fit, be absolutely sure that you're doing the best job you possibly can and that you're doing one thing at a time to make sure that the signal that you're getting is actually related to your activity and not based on something else.
Number three, not being able to follow a really simple execution rhythm. And by that, I mean, does the company have goals? Does it have priorities that drive us toward those goals? A handful of key priorities that the company can look at and focus on every month. Do they use data regularly, KPIs, numbers that are able to measure the progress on these priorities so that we can see if we're doing well or we're doing not? And the third part of that, after priorities and KPIs, is do we have a really simple communication rhythm, a meeting rhythm throughout the week, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, that drives the organization forward.
This is also really true for startups. You don't have the time, you don't have the money, you don't have the resources to be making mistakes and to be spreading yourself too thin. And you should be focused on every day at what it is that you're working on at that particular moment. Again, most startups have small teams. If they're lucky, they're full of A players who can execute and think big picture. And you're always looking at that data to see whether or not you're getting closer or further away from your immediate milestone, which in almost every startup is product market fit. Nothing else matters. So if you're not moving towards that, you're not measuring yourself and testing things, but you're actually looking at other factors like, who said the most important thing in the meeting, or who is the smartest person in the room, you're not going to get closer to actually solving that problem.